All right, here we go. On today, start from the bottom. How did we get here? Podcast. We have a good friend, AJ Buckley, here on the cast today at Project Lead Nation Mount Pleasant, and a couple of things that. So I'm excited about this podcast mostly because I don't as we were just talking, I don't know much about your story. Excited to kind of dive in because I know it's extremely different from somebody else. But I do know that you're Sonny on SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
And I know that because my best friend Jeremy, he is obsessed with SEAL Team 6.
Just SEAL Team. It was SEAL Team 6, and then when it went to they made the first season, it was just SEAL Team then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just SEAL Team now?
Yeah, get everybody makes that mistake. It's like SEAL Team 6. That's what it did. It's a pop culture sort of.
So was that just because of
I think it just was just SEAL Team. It just because it didn't exclude other teams that we were potentially other branches that we were. So it was just SEAL Team.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I also know you did a stint on Entourage, which was more my favorite. It's top 3 shows of mine, and I met you through one of the trainers down here, Swoley.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, Brian. Shout out to Swoley.
He's the man.
But I met him. He sent you in here, and then we linked up, and then you started working out at Gold's, and we worked out a couple times. Threw down, did some legs.
I've gotten stronger since then.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
because of your injury and everything like that. So I'm excited to have you on. I really appreciate your time and you coming out here.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's all about you. So if you want to just kind of start where you were born, and then kind of just walk the steps of born in Dublin.
Yeah.
Which I'm repping
I know.
The Irish for you today.
I was born in Dublin, Ireland, and that there's a really strong connection for me in Ireland. Everything all right? Yeah. Everything okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
I really have a strong connection to Ireland because when I was 5 years old, 5 or 6, we were around there. I went to a play at Christmas time, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I remember as clear as day when Sneezy came on stage and he sneezed and did his thing. The audience laughed, and when they laughed, it was like a tickle in my ear. It was like I've never heard this actual this room just full of laughter and buzz and whatnot. And I kept looking around to see what that was, and then I asked my mom. I said, "What are those? What are these people doing?" He's like, "Those are actors." And I was like, and at that moment, as true as God, I was like, "That's what I want to do." And
was that in?
That was in Dublin.
That was in Dublin.
That was in Dublin. So I really, when I say I have a real connection to that, Irish people are such storytellers. You grow up per se in a pub or a party, and there's someone that's singing a song, and all the songs that they've written over the years, it's very much there's a lot of similarity to country songs. There's a real story, a real narrative. And just the arts in Ireland is really big. So when I was then we emigrated to Canada when I was 6 years old, and I always was, I'd played soccer and done a bunch of different sports and stuff. And I was never phenomenal at it. And I always wanted to act. And I started auditioning for plays and whatnot. And so
what was the decision to move from Ireland, Dublin to Vancouver?
My parents, there was some opportunity that for my dad and my mom, some of our family had gone ahead. And then my dad went ahead 6 months ahead of us. It's so crazy to think now, how he did that, because there was no FaceTime or texting or it was you're just gone. Yeah. And I don't really remember him being gone, which is comforting with the amount of travel that I do, because I always worry about my kids, feeling that I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Which is my biggest fear. So my dad, he went ahead, got a job, and then we flew over 6 months later, and think like the bottom of the market fell out in the 80s. It was like that big crash. And so everything sort of collapsed, and we ended up staying on this island, Bowen Island in Vancouver. And it was his cousin's cabin that we stayed in. It was like a total isolation, but it was awesome because as a kid, there wasn't like other kids on the island, but there was like a dog and there was like a horse, and I was just kind of out there. And a lot of my imagination in those first, 6 to, 12 months of being there, I just was just off. I had all my imaginary friends and all these various different things, and then things sort of turned around, and we went to.
What did your dad do? Like,
my dad did everything. He was a man of wherever he worked. Up until the time that he passed away, he couldn't keep him still.
Yeah.
You give my dad duct tape and a hammer, and he'd build a house.
Do you feel like you're the same way?
Same work ethic for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, same work ethic. I wish I was as talented him as with carpentry, and he was really good at finish work with
Oh, that's an art.
Oh God, because I still to this day, and I will have conversations with him by myself when I'm working, where I'll try to cut something with the saw, the crown molding, and I can't figure out the math. I'm like, and he would just be like, put it down, zit, zit, and then he'd go up and it would fit perfect. And all right, even just I was doing the sheetrock the other day at my house, and I just fucked it up, man. I was just like, and it kept like, I was like, God, and I was like, Dad, like my dad would just come up and he'd be like, boom, 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 and just like have the thing, and everything would be super smooth. And he was a tailor as well. You could always get like you get the thread and the needle. I still yet to find another person that can do this. And every time you get thread and needle, you just go like that and throw it through.
Really?
Yeah, because his dad died when he was young, and his dad was a tailor, and he had to take over the family business at like 11 years old, 12 years old in Dublin. Yeah, so he became like one of the main tailors. He had to learn really quickly, but because they made the uniforms for the army, and but that was their business. And when his dad died of a brain aneurysm when he was young, he had to sort of step up and sort of thing. So I think my dad just was always had that go, and I definitely have that where I can't sit still for too long, or I have my hand in 100 different places of constantly where I always feel that I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But then when we got to the mainland in Vancouver, and then my mom, my parents, both they met when they were kids working at Boys and Girls Club, and that was sort of like their life calling. My mom and dad, we'd opened up a group home for kids, high profile kids with like FAS, which fetal alcohol syndrome, NAS, various different, schizophrenia, Asperger's, all different sorts of things. And then just normal kids as well that were just going through the system. But the kids that would come to us were basically the unadoptable in a sense. And my mom would help prepare them for a permanent placement, because every parent would want to find a child that is perfect, and nobody would really want to adopt kids that have problems or issues. And a lot of the times the kids were, one would be fine, and the sibling would have some sort of issues. The parents the court system would want to split them up, because we ended up at adopting or even fostering longer so that they didn't get split up.
But parents did that?
Yeah, we had probably over 200 kids that came through our house.
Wow, man.
Over the course of our
what an impact.
Yeah, it was crazy. The thing is, I didn't realize how crazy it was until I left home.
Yeah.
Until I told people that, and they're like, "What?" I just thought that was normal. And then I before I had left, I had started working at the home with some of the kids that had special needs, and I just I loved it. I thought it was like a really fun, there's a quality about some of these kids that like the way that they see the world and how happy they are, and like
100%.
it is like infectious, and it's like, man, it really like puts in like when you have those shitty days and you're like, what the fuck am I complaining about? This person is fucking so happy just to fucking go outside and see the sunshine. It's like, and at a young age, just being exposed to that. My dad and mom very much implemented in the house. Like my mom sort of, her real process or approach to the kids was if they're laughing, they're listening. That was her way she got through them, because a lot of the kids have been really badly sexually abused or some way, shape, or form being affected by the system, and there were just numbers to the system. And this was like the first home that they got. They were so used to like go to one place, then go to the next. And so it was actually pretty crazy to see when my dad passed away that all these, like, there was no room in the church at all, and all these kids had come back with their kids, and it was a really, really powerful thing to see the impact that my dad and my mom had. But I think a lot of the stuff though in that home sort of prepared me for my acting stuff, because I just was exposed to a lot of different characters, and the biggest thing is like, with kids like that, it's like you just got to listen. You got to figure out what they're actually trying to say to you in their way of their language. And in acting, the biggest skill that I've taught and I believe in is you have to listen in the scene to know what's happening. You can't be anticipating your line of what's coming next, because in real life you don't know what someone's going to say. So if you're really listening and it's good material, then you'll sort of fall into it. So I learned a lot through there. And again, once I left and told people this is what I was doing, or that this was my life, everyone was like, "How is it?" Like, So it definitely was a crazy upbringing. And then when I had left, when I graduated, I had some smaller roles here and there. I think one of my first roles was on the X-Files.
Okay.
I played Agent Scully's brother, and though actually the first episode they had me, I think it was like season 1. Kim Manners directed, and for those of you out there that have followed my career, they'll know exactly who Kim Manners is, because he was the force behind the hit series Supernatural. He was one of the main directors there.
Okay.
And David Nutter and him were the big sort of David Nutter, Kim Manners, Eric Kripke were the big guys behind.
So what age were you about that? That first role?
I think it was 15 or 16, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that when you went out to LA?
LA I'd gotten.
Or were you still in Canada with that?
No, I was still in Canada. LA happened. I'd done bit parts, and I was just really loving it, and just sort of finding my way. In Vancouver, I was in the best possible city, because Vancouver was booming with film production.
Really? I would have never guessed
it. It was just the dollar was at the right price. The Canadian dollar was low enough. The studio system they'd built up. I think it wasn't Lionsgate, but there was a bunch of American studios had come up and actually built really big studios, and they were shooting all sorts of TV shows and movies and big, like X-Files was a massive show, and The Commission, a bunch of other really big TV shows that were up there. And then because of that, I was able to go out and get auditions and sort of get my feet wet.
Did you grow up close to that then?
No, I'd have to take the train in.
Okay.
And which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I started doing like plays or going to it was like the Gastown Actor Studio. And Bart Anderson was my coach there. Awesome guy. I actually think about him a bunch, wonder where he is these days. But he was an awesome, like Kiko Morrison and Bart Anderson were two like really amazing acting teachers that had a huge impact on me. And I'd take the train in. We would do scene study every single Saturday. So instead of going playing soccer, I was now taking the train. And I went to like an all boys private school that was like wrestling and football and all those sort of things. And then I was like, I tried out for the teams, didn't make it. And I did get asked to be the mascot, which was pretty cool. It was one of my I forget how it exactly happened, but my after I tried out for the football team, I remember one of the coaches was like, we don't have a mascot. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, are you asking me to be the mascot? And he's like, yeah, you should be the mascot. And I ran home, and I remember like running through the door and be like, Dad. And my dad's like, no way, you fucking made the team. And I'm like, no. He's like, hey. He's like, I'm the mascot. He's like, that's awesome. He's like, what's the mascot? It's a knight. I'm a knight. So, but that was the greatest thing ever. I was like, I did a lot of crazy things. But that was fun. St. Thomas More was the school I went to, one of the best schools I went to, and just awesome teachers there. And this one teacher, Mr. Bowman, was really great because I didn't do well in school per se. I had a lot of dyslexia, and back then they didn't really understand what that was. It had ADD and dyslexia, and they just didn't understand how to do it with me. And my process of learning, even to this day, when I'm memorizing something or doing, I have to get up and walk around. So when I was in class and stuff, when I really got into something, I always felt the need I had to get up, but I would get in trouble. And it wasn't that they didn't know, and I didn't really know, but there wasn't really like an ability to be like, okay, yeah, we know what this is. Like dyslexia wasn't really at the forefront or how to process it. So I was kind of a little bit on my own. But then I was given a camera in an English assignment by Mr. Bowman, and told to make this movie. And I just was like,
that camera?
oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like the full on VHS type. And we went in. I forget what it was called. We made the movie called The Inbreds, and I think I just watched Deliverance or something like that, and was like, oh, we'll make that. But it was nothing like that. I thought it was, but it was terrible. But anyways, that film, and Mr. Bowman will actually say it's true. That film is the reason I graduated.
Yeah,
because that got me over the hump. I'm pretty sure I probably, or they were just like, we'll let him go.
Yeah. He was the mascot.
He was the mascot. A lot of
let
heart,
him go.
a lot of sweat and tears on that court.
Yeah. That's so interesting though. Like when you think about it, like that role given to you, it's like you get to transform into that character, be that.
Oh yeah.
You get to really be that person.
Oh yeah.
Or mascot, or
yeah.
At a young age, it's kind of cool.
It was, and I loved it, man. I loved our pep rallies. I loved everything. I would live, and part of the other reason too was like I could get out of class to go. I had to go like get the gym ready for the pep rally for Coach Steele. That was our name of Coach Steele.
Sorry, social studies.
Like,
I'm out.
So I think I actually got kicked out of the drama class in STM.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't think I'd get kicked out. The scene in the play required the two guys, I think it was Brighton Beach Memoirs, or forget what it was, but they were drinking beers. So I said to the teacher, well, I'll bring the beer. She didn't say no. So I brought some beers to the rehearsal, and halfway through the thing, she was like, is that a real beer? I go, yeah, you told you to bring him beers. I'm like, I can't in, and like, I almost got kicked out. I'm like, I didn't know. I'm like, I'm an actor. I'm really into
I'm just trying to be my character.
It was not good, dude. It was good. So I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the play.
So was it just the play or the whole class?
I got kicked out. Yeah. They didn't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny. I mean, I go back to the school anytime I'm up in Vancouver, I'll pop by and go speak to the drama class and give some inspiration if I can, or answer any questions. I actually really enjoy going back there and just talking to them. It's now a co-ed school, and the drama program is actually really good. So it's always nice just to go back, and a bunch of the guys that I actually graduated with teach there now, so it's it's a really cool full circle. But yeah, when I was 16, I got one of the leads in this movie called Disturbing Behavior that David Nutter was directing.
How did you get up for these roles? Did you find a manager?
Yeah, you found an agent. Yeah, and you just there was agents.
And your parents were all on board with this stuff?
I think at the beginning, with my dad and mom basically said, if you start something, if it's soccer or whatever, you are not quitting, and you will see this through. And whether you're sick or whatever, if you're hurt, you will show up for the practices. You will be there. Games, it doesn't matter. You're part of this team, and you'll sort of see this through. That was not negotiable. You didn't start something and then be like, and take the foot off the gas. And it's crazy because I hear me repeating that to my kids too, which is crazy.
But it's important though.
Oh, right? Yeah. It's you got to see it through. Yeah. I don't care. Even when one of my boys was grounded for, just being a twin and getting into shit. Yeah. I was like, here, we're going to jiu-jitsu. And he's like, I'm going. I'm like, yeah, you're going, but you're going to sit there and you're going to watch your brother. you're gonna be part of the team, but you're not suiting up today. And he's like, everybody's like, why aren't you thinking? And he was like, 'cause I'm grounded. I'm like, doesn't feel good, does it? And he's like, no. I'm like, don't get grounded again.
Easy solution.
Yeah, but it was like actually good for him to see it and be like, as opposed to keeping him at home. He went there and was like, because he loves jujitsu so much. He's like, I want to so I'm not gonna get. I'm like, no, dude, you're sitting there, you're showing up, you're gonna watch, but you're not participating.
And the biggest thing about all of that is just you're setting the standard of what this looks like, not only like on his end, but on your end too. You're still showing up. You're still where it would have been probably way easier just to let him sit at home in front of the screen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the twins are like, we were definitely shocked when we found out we were getting twins. Wasn't planned or wasn't IVF. It was a surprise. And I remember the nurse being like, "Oh, congratulations, 2 heartbeats." And I was like my wife's heartbeat and the baby's heartbeat. And she's like, "No, there's two babies." And we're like, what? So it was. I
can't even. Yeah, imagine.
My wife, who's a nurse, who usually runs all these appointments with the OBGYN and all this, like she would talk and I would just sit there and be like, "Sweet," there for support. She went totally quiet and I was like, okay. And she just like, and then we went down to our car and she was like, "We got twins." She's like, "What are we going to do?" Yeah. And I remember the lady being like, "Just so you know, like after twins is a high probability because it came naturally that you'll have twins again." I'm like, I am getting fixed. I'm not going 1 to 5 in 2 years. Like that's fucking nuts. That's insane. Yeah. So, but my boys are awesome. Ranger and Bodie, and then I have a daughter that's 9, Willow.
Okay.
I think you've met them briefly, right?
Yeah, I met your sons.
Yeah. So, little maniacs. They got little mullets right now. They look awesome.
America.
Well, America.
Jiu-jitsu, mullets.
Yeah. I mean, my friends are like, "Wow,
they're probably eating steaks.
You really got new culture down in South Carolina." I'm like, "Fuck yeah." But no, when I was 17, then I got 16, 17, got disturbed behavior with David Nutter directing, and David at the time was an up and coming director. He's now, considered to be one of the. He is the GOAT of television. He directed more television pilots that got picked up. I think he's like 26 pilots. He directed 26 or 27 pilots, and 25 of them got picked up. I think only 1 or 2 have only, but everything from Without a Trace to Roswell. I mean, anything.
Every sci-fi.
No, he did everything. I mean, he did. Did you see Game of Thrones? So I mean, some people have it. Yeah. He did it. He did directed the Red Wedding.
Oh no way!
Now he did all the finale stuff for Game of Thrones.
It was so good.
I think he won a Golden Globe for the Red Wedding and an Emmy for the Red Wedding. But anyways, he became like the father figure for me down in Los Angeles in the business itself. And when I moved down there, because I starred in his movie, and then he had called my parents and said, "Hey, look, he's testing really high in the movie," which means when they're screening the movie before it comes out to get audience notes and stuff, the audience has a little dial, and when characters come on that they like, the audience will turn a dial or turn it this, yes or no, or like the thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah. And then it comes out in a little algorithm and it spits out who's testing well, storylines, blah, 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 blah.
It's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
It's getting judged by everybody.
People don't know you. So Nutter had called, only 16, I was just turning 17. And I'm like, I got to talk to my parents. She's like, "Let me talk to your parents." They'd met him a couple of times, and his wife, Birgit, awesome people. And he was like, "I really think, he's got an opportunity to," and he's like, "I'm not saying this to anybody." He's like, "He's testing through the roof and it'd be a good idea for him to come down." He goes, "I'll set up some appointments for agents." And I went down there, met with an agent. Agent set me up on an audition. I booked the very first audition that I got. And then it I was in. So, and then my parents, I stayed with David Nutter for a while, and then I got a place in Santa Monica, and then I was just doing the grind.
So you were in high school and you were filming the X-Files.
Yeah.
Did you go to school and people were just like,
it was pretty
I can't even imagine me going in on my high school after filming.
Yeah, it was
the biggest show
ever.
The time.
Yeah, and the show, the first episode I did on X-Files was War of the Cockroaches. You remember the episode? You ever see where the cockroach goes in the guy's arm? Goes in, they're like chopping up drugs, and he's a sore, and then it goes up in the arms. So I think it's online somewhere. But that was the first.
It's been a while. That was like what 90?
Oh yeah. Oh, if that. Yeah, it was like early 90s.
Yeah.
It was like 90.
But I remember that show being The Boss.
Me and this actor Tyler Labine, and we played these stoner guys together, and then like 4 or 5 seasons later, they brought me back as Agent Scully, her brother. So I'm a fellow. I've got some ginger in me, just like her. So they're like, "Oh, bring back Buckley," and so they brought me back as her brother. And then and I think Rob Bowman directed that episode, who was one of the creators of X-Files. But at any rate, I had went down to LA, was working away, and things were going good. And then I was kind of in this weird space of I wasn't old enough to be like a cop or whatever that next segue was, but I was too old to be in high school. So it was this weird window that you kind of get stuck in. And I had a good run, but I also had never really made real money in my life before. It wasn't that we grew up wealthy, and it wasn't like there were financial advisors around me. So I got myself in a little bit of a predicament. I lost my way a little bit. I just got caught up in the scene and didn't really, everything's, in Hollywood's very much like that. It's no one wants to, at this time anyways, no one wants to admit that they're struggling. So you just play like, oh yeah, I'm great. It's like all fucking smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And so I just fucking was like, oh yeah, like it's great. So you're spending money, you're doing things, not understanding that you gotta pay taxes on this money. Yeah. Like just no clue. So I got a reality check, and I didn't have a lot of money left. And I was like, fuck, like, what do I do? And I was going through this, like, I wasn't booking the way I was.
Because you were age or kind of falling?
It wasn't, they're like, he's great, but he's not old enough, or it was just this weird, 12, 18-month window that you're kind of stuck in, which in Hollywood, when you're, spending money, then you have spare time, and then you're just getting into fucking no good.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like a recipe for disaster, especially for a young.
Yeah. So that's what was happening. So then I remember like going through this really sort of soul searching. There've been many of these in my career, but there's a sort of the real first one where I definitely knew I was lost, and I didn't know who I was because I was afraid to tell people that I was broke, and I didn't come from money. So I'm like, what the fuck is it like? Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And I was never defined by money. So why am I putting on this act? But it was just this thing. It was this insecurity. Everybody like has nice cars and these big houses, and you just want to like be swimming with the big fish. So, and it put me in situations that I didn't necessarily need to be in, as far as just like spending money or just it was an act. Yeah. And again, I didn't really know who I was yet, or wasn't even trying to learn who I was. I was just sort of like the lights in the city, and I understand how that city fucking sucks you up and spit it out. I've seen most of the people that have come in there just get eaten alive. Yeah. And I take it. I always use the image of like the salmon run in LA. That's like people that are just like they're swimming up that river and they're like diving up to try and get up to the top.
Yeah.
And that's what, and then the fucking salmon's almost there, and as they get up, a goddamn grizzly bear's like, and just fucking rips them apart. You're like, well, that didn't work out. And then little Timmy the fish is like, I made it, So it's just there's a lot of road blocks and things, but again, it goes back to checking in with yourself, and I had to have this moment because I'd pretty much run out of money. I was contemplating, like, do I go back to Vancouver and get like a day job? And not that there was anything wrong with getting a day job, but like, do I go back home? And say I tried and see if I can save up money and come back, or do I just figure it out and sort of start being honest with myself? And I had this conversation with myself in my rearview mirror of my Honda Civic.
Did you have anybody that you confided in or that you
Yeah, there was a couple.
trusted?
There was a guy that Skip Erickson. He's one of my really good friends. He's a godfather of Willow, and he was like an older brother to me there, and he definitely would like groceries. He like, or I'd sleep on his couch, or he was always looking out, and he's like always like, I'm buying stock in you, I'm buying stock in you, and I kept everything that he loaned me. I kept like a detailed thing of like, I'm like, I'll get you back one day, and then I remember in this moment I was having with myself, I'm like, look, I cannot take another dollar from anybody else. My parents were like, please, like, come home. Or like, my mom was worried sick. I don't even know how. Like, my kids were telling me they were doing this. I'm like, fuck you are. Like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. You get in the truck and you're going home. So it's like, so, but I was like, no, it's good. I was like, I'm good. I just can't take I was like, the next dollar that comes into my account, it has to be from, like, I have to earn it. I have this fake security net that I can just get. I would take food or would take, but as far as like cash, I was like, I got to figure this out. And then I was like, I'm also like gonna be okay with telling people I'm fucking broke. And I was living in my car. I was, go to the gym, and the person at the gym, he knew me there, but he would just wave every morning me in. He would just press a button there because they were across the way. I'm like, hey, what's up? And he'd be like, hey, morning. And he'd bust in, and there was like a shower and a steam room. And I'd go in and shower at the gym and get ready. And then I'd like have my suitcase in the back of my car and go around. I'd go to Kinko's and get my sides and whatnot. Or I'd go over to my buddy's Skip's house to print out sides, and he'd run the lines with me and my buddy Jimmy Matteo. And I was just like got in the zone of like, I'm cool with this. Like, I'm, doing what I love. I have a family that believes in me, and I'm healthy, and I'm literally chasing my dreams. I don't have a backup plan. I don't believe in backup plans. And I really sort of made that clear. I'm like, because every time I was like, well, I could, then I started, that was like my tap out. So I was like, fuck it, I'm all in. I'm not giving up. I'm not going to have a backup plan. This is my plan. And the road is going to suck, but I'm doing what I love. And a lot of my friends and stuff, people that I knew at the time, I would talk to them and I would hear them say like, yeah, I'm like, punching the clock, or I'm doing these things. And, and it just seemed like they were accepting this, what their backup plan was. And for me, I was freaking out, and they'd be like, dude, it's so crazy. You're doing what you love. And they'd be like, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, are you not doing what you love? And in a sense they were, but it wasn't what they always wanted to do. They had to, just to have left the town that I was in and be down there by myself. And even a lot of the guys, the actors that had come down for the disturbing behavior thing, they'd gone back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had, gave it a college try. And
Do you guys still film a lot up there?
in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Fair amount. It's all dependent with how the dollar is.
Okay.
But I'd stayed. I hit that point where I'm like, look, I'm okay with telling people that, I've got no cash. And I remember actually there was this one night where I'd met this girl, and I was so excited. I hadn't like been on a date in forever. And she thought my jokes were good, and I was like, oh, this is it. I'm scoring. I said, like, so I take like, we go up to like this area, like Mulholland, and I like pull into this like, so basically like there's a giant house there, but it's like a driveway, and I park because there's like this lookout thing, and I was like, gonna be like, yeah, let's go for a walk, super slick, and and she's like, is this where you live? And I was saying, yes, this is where I live, as in I live in my car. That's what was starting to come out of my mouth. I'm like, yeah, this is where I live. And I was having the guts for the first time to say, in my car. And she's looking at this house. She goes, holy fuck, this is your house? I'm like, oh God. Oh no. I'm like, she's like, whoa. She's like, this is amazing. I had no idea. And I'm like, and it was a beautiful house. I'm like, oh, man, I wish this was my house right now. I'd totally score. And I was like, I'm in a fucking red Honda Civic. And I'm like, how is she even thinking that this is my house? So I'm like, beat up fucking Honda Civic with a suitcase in my back. And she's like, I'm like, well, I mean, I'd like house like this one day. But I know this is my home. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, my car. I live in my car. And she was like, you live in your car? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you need to take me home right now. I was like, okay. It was like, no.
It went from like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I just remember like I was trying to I had a fucking uh, CD player, and the fucking thing was like, everything just started going wrong. I was trying to do it and thinking, and like it wasn't playing, and I'm like driving, and I've been standard, like trying to put it in. She's like, just don't worry about it. I'm like, well, fuck, man. So I don't have a big
she was
house.
out. She was out.
Gold digger.
Wonder where she's at now.
Yeah.
You know?
Hope you're listening. Yeah, you know who you are. So then we left, or then I things just started to like be. They changed for me because I wasn't as stressed out about letting people know. I'm like, hey, I'm happy. I'm just fucking broke as fuck right now. Like, but everything's good.
So you.
Yeah. And once I started to do that, things just sort of settled in a bit into the city for the first time. And then it was shortly after that I was up for CSI New York. They'd called and said they were interested. Well, I auditioned for CSI Miami for a guest star, and they had called because I guess I was on a list. I'd worked with the showrunner Pam Vese before on the show called The District, and I guess I'd made an impression with her. And on CSI New York, they were going through lab techs. They'd gone through like 3 or 4 different lab techs that are basically there to give exposition, drive the story, but it's fucking huge words and crazy stuff. But it's kind of a hard piece to get through. And they, would hire somebody, but it would be like an if-come deal. Like if they pass the test, we'll give them a contract.
Yeah.
So I was getting an offer on CSI Miami just for a guest star, and then my agent got called and said, "Hey, didn't know this, but you've been on a list in the CSI universe. They want to try you out for one of the lab techs. So they're asking, can you pass on the guest star on Miami because you can only do one CSI a year. You can't go back to back.
Yeah.
Because that CSI was like the biggest show in the world. It was like massive. And I was like, okay. And they're like, I'm like, what's the character? I'm like, they haven't even written the script yet for you, but they want you to go down to the studio tomorrow. You're going to film it. And you'll basically get the script when you get there. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, she's like, it's worth a shot. I'm like, okay. And
you had to pass up on the other one.
Passed this great, awesome.
So you're like,
star. Yeah,
totally rolling the dice here.
And my agent was like, hey, can you at least, pay him what the guest star is, even though this is just and they're like, yeah, of course. So I go over there, I get the script, and I'm stressing out because I'm dyslexic and my learning process is really, I kind of found my way of how I memorize, but I still hadn't perfected it yet. On top of that, I'm incredibly nervous. Like I know what this could mean. Like this is my way out. And it's the biggest opportunity I ever got. And it's not like an audition. Like I'm showing up to set. Gary Sinise is in the scene, and Melina Kunakaris is in the scene as well. And they were the 2 stars of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And they'd given me the lines that morning. I wasn't filming till like 2 p.m. So you're basically in this tiny little trailer, and the fucking word that I had to say was methoxydiisopropyl-tryptamine. That word still haunts me.
I was going to say the fact that you still remember that and pronounce it like that.
And I am like, what? It's like 16 letters or 17 letters. I'm like, what in the fuck is this? I'm like, I go to, is this a real word? They're like, yeah. And they have it phonetically under there. I'm like, I've got to say this. And they're like, looking, and I'm like trying not to panic. I'm like, I got this in my mind because this is part of the role. You have to be able to say these big words, but then say it in a way where you're not giving information, but it's like endearing and fun. And you're kind of the quirky lab guy. And your character appears on a certain page, you give the information, then 10 pages later Gary comes back in and gives you give him some more information, tell him what it was, and he goes, all right, cool, and then they go off and solve the case. So you're always, it's like the greatest character within a universe because it has a purpose, but you just have to understand the rhythm that they need for that. I didn't know what that rhythm was. And clearly I had no clue because when I showed up to set, I was like soaked to the bone in sweat. And I'm starting to get way like in my head, and I'm sort of mumbling, and even in the rehearsals, there's like all this like scientific jargon, like thermostats and whatnot. And I knocked one over during a take, and I fumbled the way through the thing. And at the end of the take where I knocked something over, the showrunner was like, AJ, you can hear her off the thing. She's like, whatever you're doing. And I'm thinking, here we go, I'm fired. She's like, keep doing. She's like, the choice you're making to make him super nervous. She goes, I love it. I'm like, what? And she's like, keep. It's so funny. The nervous energy. She's like, keep doing that. We love it. And Gary's like, good job. Yeah, it's a great choice. No one's done that. And I'm like, I'm fucking soaked in sweat. I probably shit my pants. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, yeah. This is a choice. And then I'm start freaking out because I'm like, I don't know what I did the last take. It's all a blur. I'm just like, okay. So I just kind of fumbled it. It kind of freed me up a little bit. And at the end of that scene, they're like, can you stick around and we want to write another scene for you? I'm like, okay. So I call my agent. And they're like, that's good. And then I stuck around, same sort of thing. There's another big scene with words and got through it. And then by the time I got to my car, they said, we want to have him come back for the next episode. I was like, oh shit, this is good. And my agent was like, this is really good. And then I did like 4 or 5 episodes.
As it goes.
Yeah, there's writers in the room, and it's easy to place my character because the character would have been in the world. They just didn't have a person that was cast yet.
Okay.
So you fill the spot, and then within that, then I did like 4 or 5 the first season, and this is when CSI New York and Miami and Vegas it was everywhere. Yeah. That was the thing, and that's when you went home. There was no TiVo, there was no, recording your show. Like it was, you tuned in, and that you were getting 20 million viewers. That was, and it was the biggest show in the world. Like it was sold in every territory. So I was like, yeah, it was massive, especially in South America and all over the place. So I had, where was I? What were we saying?
You just got the part for the lab tech.
Oh yeah. So we
they called you back for another episode.
At the end of the season, I got the call, and they had said, we want to book you for this. And I literally, the day that I'd gotten the call for CSI New York to go and do that, I had $32.95 in my Wells Fargo bank account. I still have the bank receipt from that day. And then I signed like a 7-year contract with CBS. And, I've now been working with CBS for almost 20 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you sign a contract with them, is that per show? Like, is it a contract per show or a contract?
They own me for 7 years.
Okay.
And you can renegotiate potentially, but I wasn't high enough in the call sheet to really negotiate, and I didn't give a fuck. I was just like,
sounds great.
Made more money than ever made in my life, made more money than my family had ever made.
Yeah.
This was like I went from in my car, and this is a true story. I found a place, and my parents were coming down to celebrate, and I went out, got a place, and it was like this sick pad with like an infinity pool. Like there was no like, I was like, I want that. And I told my mom, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go get furniture. She's like, all right, we said, cool, we'll help you pack it, load in and stuff in there. I'm like, great, perfect. And they show up, and she's like, where's it? I'd only bought a pool table. I bought a pool table, and I had like a sleeping bag on the hardwood floor. And she's like, where have you been sleeping? I'm like, on the floor or in my car. She's like, you have a place now. Why don't you get a bed? I'm like, because I got a pool table. I was so excited about the pool table. I'm like, I always wanted a pool table. And she was like, all right. And then I'm like, I was so excited. And I bought like, a barbecue next. So I was like, things that I was just like, oh yeah. I'm like, pool table, barbecue, cooler full of beer. I was like, yeah, let's go. Infinity pool. I'm like, it's on. So, but that show like changed my life. I did 9 years on that.
So could you only work on that show during that time?
For television, yeah. But it was we're doing 24 episodes. So we would shoot from June till May. Or like end of April. So it was 10 and a half months. Yeah. Which was awesome. And it was like, for me, I didn't go to college, and it was like going to school. And there was a showrunner that came on halfway through, Peter Lenkoff, who really was another guy that really has been and still is today. Some that is like been very impactful to me in my career. He just allowed me to really understand the writing process and the creative process and how it works. And I, you know, just I just wanted to see. I knew when I was there, I was like, I've got like this amazing opportunity to like learn about making TV. And so I literally picked the phone, was like, hey, Linkoff, can I, let's hang out and see how you do this? He just like open door and anything. And still to this day, he's someone that I confide in a lot just about my business and what moves to make and what he's thought. Like he weighs a lot, and his words mean a lot just because he's been around for forever. But I feel like he treats me like a son and has my best interest. And it's always great when you have those people within a business that's so superficial and so much bullshit that you can sort of identify good people like that. And then CSI was like, when that ended, it was a pretty crazy time because my dad had just died. Like literally everything had sort of happened. My dad had passed away, and CSI, they were actually awesome. When he was dying, they knew how close I was to him. So they said, just go. Like, don't worry about it. Still paid me. I went up and was there for like the last 6 to 8 weeks with him and handled all the funeral stuff. And they were like, you come back when you're ready. Like, I'll always be so grateful to Peter and Pam Besse for allowing me to go do that. Most people, they'd be like, you got to suck it up.
Did you get some like good time with him?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was, losing someone like that it still is, one of the hardest things to deal with. But, my dad, him dying of cancer, if I was going to ask a way to go, like that would be because I don't know how people deal. And I've had friends that have just died or family members that have just died. You don't get closure. But for my dad, we got to hang out. I got to sit by his bed, and he was like, he was a never quit type attitude. He never thought once that this was going to take him down. And it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And the Canadian health system is fucking garbage. Like it is. Anybody that thinks that free healthcare is a good idea is just go live in Canada. It's fucking terrible. Yeah. It is so bad. And I have a lot of anger towards that system because I feel like they robbed when my dad was healthy enough to they just couldn't diagnose it because he would go there and then, some crackheads would come and show up in the ER, and then all the doctors would be dealing with them and not, dealing with a guy that never drank and was a good human being. And just, they were constantly, he just got messed around, and he got weaker and weaker and weaker pretty quickly, but he was always at the hospital and nothing was getting done. So if we had gotten the diagnosis earlier, we would have been like, well, he's healthy right now. Let's go travel or do something. Yeah. That being said, it didn't happen. So say la vie. I got great time with him and a lot of amazing closure. Not that we ever had anything to really closure on because we had a very open relationship, and he was just an amazing guy, but just great insight on things. And one of the things he left me with, which was the last day of him being alive, and he woke me up and the sun was rising, and he said, he's like, hey, I know this is going to be my last sunrise. And I was like, no, Dad. He's like, no, it is. He goes, but I want to watch it with you. And I was like, it felt like it was like out of The Lion King, where we were like sitting there and he's like talking about all this stuff. And he was just like, look, just know that I get choked up every time I talk about it. Anyways, sorry. Yeah, he just goes, just know when things get tough.
If you didn't get emotional,
yeah,
it's like it would.
He's like, if you when things get tough, he's like, just find a place you can watch the sunrise and know that you've got another day. He goes, I don't have any more, and each day is a gift. And if you don't wake up and see that sunrise, and that was your last day, and you wasted it on bullshit, then you've wasted it. He goes, I know this will be the last one I will ever see. I won't see the sunset tonight. He goes, and I just want you to know that when it gets tough, find this place that you can see it rise, and know that, let it inspire you to get up and get after it. And I was like, it was the best advice ever. And I still, I still get up really early, and my morning routine is comprised of watching that sunrise. And I watch it a lot with my kids because those little fuckers are always up at 4 a.m. anyway. So I, yeah, I enjoy it, and I talk to them about the sunrise with Papa Joe, and he's very much part of their life and part of the daily conversations, which is really cool. But oh, sorry about that. This is so, but yeah. So then, where were we?
CSI lets you go back home.
Oh, yeah. So I'd gone back home, and that all happened, and then CSI ended. And when it had ended, I kind of was going through this really kind of crazy time, just agreeing with my dad, and I lost my way again a little bit, and was drinking and just not in the right headspace. And I'd met my wife prior to my dad actually got to meet my wife. He was very clear, telling me, he's like, "Son, don't fuck that up." He's like, "Do not."
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was, and Abby and my dad got along really well. He was like, "Yeah, that's like."
Is she from LA?
No, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, nurse, Kentucky. Not in the business, and I'm very lucky to have her in my life. So yeah, I think my joke's funny. So that's all I got. I got good jokes. But she, yeah, but I'm super glad that she got to spend a lot of time with him. And she actually, during the last, time of, a couple weeks of his life, she was very great with the family, and like, because she worked in oncology at Cedars-Sinai, so she knew the routine and was able to talk to the doctors. And then sort of, she actually got kicked out of the room a couple of times because she was challenging doctors on.
Really?
Yeah. So she's a fiery woman.
Yeah.
That's good. But we, after that,
So how'd you meet her?
Oh, drunk in a hot tub in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, classic.
Classic love story.
I literally was, I was wearing my clothes from the night before. It was like a suit of that somebody else's birthday. And
this was after CSI?
No, this is during CSI.
Okay.
During CSI, I was a big shot. And so I was in Vegas. I was there. There's two birthday parties. A birthday party on Friday, and there's a birthday party on Saturday. Her and I had a mutual friend that we didn't know each other. We'd met briefly, I think, in the past, but we went to, we were both showing up at this birthday party in Vegas, and I was still kind of drunk from the night before, and was coming in hot, red eyes, fucking wearing my suit, and I like bought a bathing suit at the MGM, like walking to the thing. I was like, I'm just coming in. I like was walking over to say hi to my buddy Ike, whose birthday was, and I saw her in the hot tub in this hot yellow bikini, and I was like, oh, wow. And I grabbed, she was like, hey, AJ, and she's like, can you get a beer? I was like, yeah. And I like, waitress was going by, and I grabbed like 2 beers, and like walked over to the hot tub, and I got into the hot tub in my suit with all my clothes on and sat down behind her. And she was like, what are you doing? She's like, why are you wearing your suit in the hot tub? Like, why are you wearing a bikini? That was it.
Well, you listen now, that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Wear a suit in hot tub, jump in the pool.
Yeah, because she is a smoke show, and I am not. Yeah, it was like, everything worked out, because any other circumstance, I probably would have been like, hi. Nice yeah. No.
So, how was she there? Like, she's working in Las Vegas?
No. She was just out there for her the same friend Ike's birthday.
From Kentucky? No,
he was LA, but she worked in LA at Cedars-Sinai.
Okay.
And she had met this group of people that I had met, but we kind of crossed paths, but not really. And she didn't even know that I was an actor or had any clue, which was cool too. And yeah, we just hit it off. It was like, ended up, I think it was pretty much from that point on, like 13, 14 years ago. And then CSI ended. And like I said, I was kind of just going through this rough spot, and I got shape, and again, just wasn't focused, wasn't on my best, and opportunities started coming up because the show was ending, and this one opportunity for this sort of franchise picture had asked for me to come in and I came in and I screen tested for the role, and it was a big deal. And Abby, we found out she was like was pregnant at the time, and they called and they said the director was like, "You are the best actor for the job." He goes, "But we're not going to have enough time to get you in the shape that we need." And I was just like, "Fuck." I'm like, I fucked up. I've let this slide through my hands, and I kind of made I was so upset because it was a really life changing, time. But I look back at it now, and I'm like, that what was life changing was the lesson that I actually learned in hindsight. Because I don't know what would have happened if I'd gone and done that in the state of mind that I was and not learned, what I needed to do. Yeah. And so I said to my wife, I go, "Look, I'm never going to let that happen again. I'm never going to let myself down like that or let you down. And we have a baby coming on the way." I said, "So it's my job now to just be super focused and get in the best shape of my life and really hit it hard." And I got cast in, actually, it was a movie that I helped put together. And I had to get put on some size and stuff like that, which was really fun. And when they'd screened the movie, it was a movie called Home Sweet Hell, or what the hell was the working title? Home Sweet Hell. And I was a producer on it. And when they screened the movie, one of the showrunners of a show called Justified was there. And he thought I was perfect for one of the villain roles for season 4. And they called me in and I got cast in that. And then these sort of things just which was a complete departure from the nerdy guy on set. Like I was playing this crazy redneck, yellow teeth. And it's actually a funny story. When Willow was being born, I was on set filming Justified, and we're filming up in the mountains. And we had a sat phone that they would have if she went into labor. And she went into labor, and they were awesome. They had a town car waiting and sent me off. And it was like an hour and a half drive. But I didn't even have time to get changed. And I've got a scar across my face. I got yellow teeth. I got a denim jacket on with tattoos all over me. I'm so dirty. And my wife works at this hospital, and I come running in, and her friends are all there, and her mom is there, and I just look horrific. I look like a crackhead. The character was a crackhead. And I was from the Florida fucking, swamps was the character, just big, just disgusting. And I walk at this big mohawk, and she's looking at me. She's like, I'm like, "Babe, are you okay?" She's like, you need to, I'm not bringing a child into this world with you. Look, she's like, "I work here." I'm like, "I'm here." She's like, "Look at you." I was like, and I realized I was so panicked to get there. I didn't realize. I walked in the bathroom. I was like, "Oh, that's I had yellow teeth." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "He's an actor. He doesn't look like this." And they're like, "Why is he come to the hospital?" She's like, "Oh my God, yeah, it's the baby dad." I'm like, "Got you good." She is from Kentucky, so she'll slap me if she hears this. I'm in trouble. But at any rate, so that I got cast in Justified, and then
which was a massive show at the time too.
It was great. Thing was awesome.
Yeah.
So I played Danny Crow on that, which was the villain, was the famous 21 foot rule, which I didn't know actually was real. A knife beats a gun within 21 feet. And then on SEAL Team, I asked the guys, some of the team guys, I'm like, "Does a knife?" He's like, 21 foot rule. It's unless you are very skilled within 21 feet, a knife more than likely, because when someone is if someone is running at you with a knife, most people, when they're trying to pull out, they're panicking because the distance is like a second and a half to clear that distance. And you see someone going like this to actually pull out and present and shoot on target it's hard. So knife usually beats the gun within that thing. So my character on Justified, he always would talk about the 21 foot rule and would faced off with Raylan, who's a lead guy on the show, and to talk about that was how we ended my departure from the show ended with me and him dueling off with it within the 21 feet. So that performance there put me on an Emmy shortlist. So Entertainment Weekly came out with the Emmy short or Emmy watch list. So they'll choose various different actors that are to watch for that they think potentially could get nominated. And I was like, "Oh shit, this is It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's where then people started. They started seeing me in a different light. Not everybody, because people were like, "Oh, he's the nerdy guy from SEAL Team or from CSI," and so then I get cast. Then I get in like really good shape, and I get cast in this
I
series.
saw a picture. I was
Yeah.
like looking up stuff on you
Yeah,
before this,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah,
And there was a picture of you. I think you were kickboxing.
yeah.
Shredded.
Oh yeah,
Just
yes, yeah.
absolutely
Just peeled.
shredded.
Yeah, peeled. Let's put on the Emmy watch list, and I just started. Was like really focused to get in the best shape of my life, and then I just something was really clicking for me, and then I get cast in this series called Pure, and it's loosely based on a true story of these what were they? I'm blanking on the religion. They live off the grid. With the horses. Amish.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and forgive me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. But they were running at the time the biggest methamphetamine pipeline from Canada down through Mexico, and they were smuggling it
somewhat true story
through. Yeah, it was based on true story. And they were smuggling it through cheese wheels that they would come across the border, and they're like, "Oh, just let them through," and they were like going across.
Who would think?
Yeah, not these guys, and they don't. And these guys talk in a language that doesn't really exist. They don't use cell phones or electronics. So it was a really hard case to crack. And I played a guy that was based on a real guy that cracked the case. He was the main detective, Bronco Novak. And which kind of funny because he was like all-star like football player like thing.
Yeah.
I had like handlebar mustache and like a Pomodoro like thing and drove like a Camaro, like awesome thing. But the crazy was they wanted me to gain a bunch of weight. So I just lost all this weight. So they wanted me to like get fat for the role, and then over the course of the series lose weight to show his transition, because when you meet him, he's this, alcoholic cop, and he's just sort of lost his way. And then when he starts to hone in on this, he, things happen with his life, and they wanted to see sort of a real physical transformation. I'm like, okay. And the way that they were shooting it was in a chronological order, so you could really commit to, because doing a film, it's hard to like be fat and then because you're shooting everything out of order.
Yeah.
So this like, no, we're going to follow the timeline. So we want you to start and be. So I just lost all this weight, and now they're like, you need to get fat again. So I'm like, eating ice cream.
I mean,
night. Yeah. I was like, well, you're getting paid. Yeah. Until I got, and I put on probably 25, 30 pounds. This trainer that I was working with in LA, Eric, the trainer, he's now passed away. Amazing guy. And he like was really helped me get out of the hole that I was in mentally with my dad and get me back on track. And then I come in, I'm like, I gotta get fat, dude. He's like, what? So he even helped me get fat.
Did that was working out a big part of like your regimen and like your mental health and stuff like that?
Yeah, it really was. I can't even now. It's like I have if I don't have that, it can it's like anything. It's like I need it.
Yeah,
I need it. And now that I know how good I feel on it, and just how important it is for longevity, it's a key component. But so I gain all this weight. I show up there. I'm like out of breath. My blood pressure's high. I'm like, oh, this sucks. And I started working with this trainer in Canada that Eric had set me up with, this Adrian Rene, amazing guy. And him and I just got along, and he really understood like macros, and he was like, this is like, he put the plan together. He's like, this is what we're going to do. And like, I was so religious about it. And I got in I went from like good shape to putting on all this weight to then getting in the best shape I'd ever been in my life, and was more disciplined and more focused than ever. And, we found out that we're having twins during that time. And, flying back and forth. We were filming in Nova Scotia, Canada, and which is like its own time zone.
Yeah.
And, awesome place to film. And
then they were living back in LA.
Yeah. So I was gone for a lot of that. Beginning of my daughter's life, I was gone a lot.
How old is she now?
She's 9.
9.
So, and she's my little girl.
And they're 4 years apart?
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. Willow's just she's my everything. I just love her so much. She's definitely daddy's girl for sure. Yeah. She'll watch my alien shows and all my things, and we'll geek out over like the pyramids and conspiracies. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and we'll watch the stars at night. So she's awesome. But so where was I?
You were filming up in Nova Scotia.
So gain all this weight, then lose it, and I get in the best shape even more so than I was. It was almost like my body needed this like fucking reset, and then fucking went back into it. And I land back in LA, and the day I get sent a script says the Untitled Navy SEAL Project, and the writer on it is Ben Cavall, who is the head writer of Justified. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And then I sent him a text, and I'm like, hey, I just got a script from you, the Untitled Navy SEAL. He's like, yeah, I wrote this character in there for you, this guy called Sonny. And I was like, cool. And they're like, he's like, it might only be the first season, we don't know, but CBS wants you to come in and read for this. And I was like, fuck, of course I'll read. Because sometimes actors like, I'm not reading, you got to offer me the part. But I'm like, I will go in and like, I want this. This is, are you kidding me? This is like, the first scene that I read was like, we're jumping out of a fucking, C-130. Like, just, I'm like, oh God, this is a dream. So, and I was literally, I couldn't have been in better shape. Better shape than I was when I was on Justified. Justified, I was just bulky. And I hadn't quite found my rhythm yet as far as like understanding nutrition and how my body worked. So when I walked in there, the same casting director that cast me in CSI was casting this. And she did not recognize me when she came in the room. She's like, AJ? And she like looked at me. She's like, AJ? And I'm like, hey. She's like, AJ? She's like, Jesus, what did you eat? Adam Ross? And I was naming a character on CSI New York. I'm like, no. And she goes, dude, you look, oh my God. And walked in. I was like, so I felt good going in there because she was actually had to be convinced to see me. Like it was like well, not that she had to be convinced. She's an amazing casting director, always believed me, but just didn't see me as a Navy SEAL because for 9 years I played this nerdy lab guy.
Do you think that was a big part of you probably getting that role?
100%.
So yeah. Like just hearing your story and going back of like, I remember you were talking about like you were grateful that this happened, where you went to that role and you were so out of shape.
Yeah.
And then like how many 10 years, 11 years later, you go to this role and you're in the best shape.
Babe shape, yeah.
And that's why you get it.
Yeah.
It's just like crazy butterfly effect lesson, right?
Yeah. And it happened at the right, like I was more ready to understand what this next chapter was going to be. It was back with CBS. I hadn't been with them for 3 or 4 years. And I went in, screen tested. I think it was like a week later they called and said I got it. I was freaking out. Like, and it was just like the perfect, everything was just like, everything was happening. And, my twins are on the way. And it was just a really, really exciting time. And then just to show up on that set and to get to start working with some of like our guys is, our nation's greatest fighters, all the special operation, our stunt doubles are former special operations. The guys that, work on our show, some of them were on the Bin Laden mission. Some of them, were part of the Delta unit that pulled out Saddam Hussein. We've got like some of the best guys in the world. And then just the people that I've met over the years through different foundations and stuff through the show, that community of special operators are like, they're just the best. Those guys are like, just when you talk about studs, those guys are fucking studs, and just the most humble human beings you'll ever meet in your life. Just like a true understanding of what, sacrifice is and discipline, actually something my dad said to me that I really rings true to me now, just with, biting down and getting after it. My dad said, would you rather have the pain of discipline or pain of regret? And I was like, it didn't make sense at the time, but even more so now, because discipline, I don't believe in motivation. I don't think there's such a word as fucking motivation. I think motivation is fucking bullshit. It's for weak-minded people. I'm going to be motivated on Monday. Well, Monday may never come. Yeah. Motivation is fucking bullshit. You have to be disciplined. If you don't have discipline, you're not going to do it. You can be motivated all you want. It's like saying that unicorns exist. It's like you have to be disciplined. Learning the art of being disciplined is a game changer. And when you can accept the fact that you're accountable for that, and when you commit to something and you say, I'm going to do this to yourself and nothing else, and you don't have to be vocal or tell anybody that you're doing something, but if you are not showing up for yourself, how the fuck is anybody else ever going to show up for you?
It's one of the things that I heard recently is like discipline is one of the most one of the best things you can do for self-care, because a lot of it is preventing what you want right now for something better in the future for yourself.
Yeah, it's like nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah.
So, and the only way things change in life, I truly believe, is by being disciplined. And disciplined, like, it's a great thing. Because if you implement it and stick to it, and it's like the simple things, just start off small. Like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it for this amount of time, and do not waver. If you can't do that, then everything else is going to fail in your life. Yeah. And it wasn't until I really started working with these guys on the show to understand what structure and discipline.
That's their whole culture,
right? Yeah, in order to get through, no matter what shitstorm is thrown to you, you have to adapt and overcome. You have to work the problem, as they always say. And those things really, I was like, man, it's about being disciplined. If you lose, it's why. Everybody that loses knows why they lost. And looking back on that moment that I lost that one thing, I knew exactly what that was. I remember thinking, fuck it, I don't care. Like, I could go to the gym or I could drink, and I chose to fucking drink, and I lost that opportunity. I just chose not to be disciplined. And it's only been later on in life that I really was like, because I'd be like, oh, Monday I'm going to do it. But Monday never came, So it's like which is a great thing that I think I'm constantly working on understanding the art of discipline. And the older that I've gotten, and now being a father, it's something that I really am cognitive of, because I really want to show my kids what this is, like why I get up in the morning, go cold plunge, or why I'm up early. And for me, being up early too, it's like I don't touch my phone, don't do anything. It's just like my time. I get up, I start my day. I love being up before everybody else. I love being up when my kids are waking up. I do my routine, and just like for an hour to 45 minutes, or 45 minutes to an hour, just alone in my thoughts, and then plan out the day, know what I got to do. And then, go to the gym or talk with my wife about what we have to do. Which is always, you can plan as much as you want, but it's like the ability to do that. So once I was disciplined enough to, like, I'm going to get my workouts in early and get that out of the way. Yeah. And it just opens up, the ability. If I can, get do my cardio at the house and then go lift later, then I'll do those things. But my happy place and where I thrive, and I think even this part of my career, is really having structure and discipline, because it's also too, it's like, I'm sure you know this too, like with your kids and your family, time is so important, right? And allocating time to things and effort into things. What if you're rushed? It's never done properly. Yeah. And if you can prepare going into it through discipline, then you always have a better outcome. But also, if I'm going to choose to be away from my kids, whether it's work or whatever it is, it's allocating time within that and putting value on what I am going to allocate time to and what I'm not. Yeah. And we all fall into get caught on the phone or this and that. Like, I'll have to delete apps and stuff on my phone if I feel like it's like pulling me in, right? And part of the work, I have to do social media stuff, but then it's like I can't. Like you have to. So it's just finding that balance, but that comes through discipline and like finding what works and what doesn't work. But the regiment and those things, I think, more so in the last, especially with SEAL, like SEAL team has been the greatest, by far the greatest experience I've ever had in my life. And this is our last season 7, and it's been an awesome run. And Sonny Quinn, like, such a great character to play, and has truly, like, people in the special operations have responded to him in such a positive way. Like, you remind me of a guy, which is like the biggest compliment
Yeah.
in there. And it's something I've grown so much on that show than I've ever grown on any acting experience because of who the people was surrounded by. To the cast and the writers but most importantly the special operation guys, they just have a way and a work ethic that is they don't get tired.
Yeah.
But they're also, it's like,
And to be clear,
yeah,
they have like actual special operations units and people
oh yeah,
on set to make sure that
oh yeah, we're there with us day in and day out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they like now some of the people have like become part of they're actors on the show.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, our shows was one of the very first show, if not the first show, that we've hired more veterans. Like, we're over 60. I think at one point we were over 60% of our crew were veterans.
That's cool.
All our stunt doubles are special operations. A lot of the veterans that have come back had transitioned. Like, they would just go back from war, and they would come to our show and transition. Now they're in the writer's room, they're producing or they're directing. Like, one of my friends, Tyler Gray, who is Delta, he's really just kicked ass. He started out as a tech advisor, then he was an actor on the show. And while he's acting, he then started directing. He was the very first veteran to not be in the DGA to get an opportunity to direct, and he crushed. He's just a natural storyteller. And he's just an awesome, awesome guy. And now he's writing the episode. So, like, the show has done a lot of good things. And I do have to, tip my hat to CBS and Paramount and their ability to really, support the show and give it the legs that it had. I mean, if we had stayed on CBS, we never really found our rhythm there. We were always a good show there, but we could never really find the audience, and that's just network television. But when we went to Paramount Plus, the show took off. Like, it became bigger. Like, usually that doesn't happen. You usually go somewhere else and you sort of taper down. Yeah. This exploded. It was like one of their biggest shows. It still is one of their biggest shows. So to go out on top as, number one show is awesome. And we get to travel around the world. I've been to a ton of different countries. I'm going to be in Medellin Cartagena this year, where we're filming. I'll go back on Sunday, which is December 11th, 10th, and I go back to LA. We start filming on December 13th. We start filming, and then that'll film through till
Have April. You like talked to anybody on the cast? Like, have you, or is it kind of like everybody shows up because you guys probably like kind of family?
Yeah.
Right?
Monday we'll all have a cast dinner. And
they're gonna be like, "Damn, AJ, you look great, right now, dog."
Well, the crazy
question it, man.
Thanks, man. I mean, I went through another sort of trial and trip. I got really badly injured on set when we were in Serbia. This air blast went off too soon, and I got turned around and I fell down a flight of stairs, and I tore my L4, L5. I had bulging disc C4, C5, tore my labrum, and had tears in my meniscus, and then stress tears in my both meniscus. And I went to actually Medellin, Colombia, and this is the worst I'd ever, like, I could not, after season 3, I couldn't run. I couldn't really lift. I was constantly in pain, and I'm not really a pain pill person. I didn't like them, never had it. I tried taking them but it didn't do anything. If anything, it just made me feel itchy and nasty. So I definitely got more heavy into the drinking. Like, it was like that, it would help for a little bit, but what I didn't realize I was doing was causing more inflammation and more damage. And so it was just a sort of never ending cycle. And I just couldn't get, like, I couldn't, it was really, I lost feelings in my hand.
I remember the first time we worked out, it was like you were super limited on.
I couldn't do anything.
Like, even like the leg press and stuff like that.
I could do I think we had 35s on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I was telling you the other day, I did 4 plates for the first time in, like, things. And that's all, like, it all goes to this place I went, BioAccelerator. Shout out to them, because those guys, if anybody is thinking about surgery, they need to go look up BioAccelerator. They're in Medellin, Colombia, and they will change your life. They do miracles there.
Do you think it's like a money thing of why they don't bring that here?
I think it's there's various different reasons. I mean,
Because you hear about everybody going over there, right?
yeah, I think um, anything in America that gets people healthy, it's like harder to pass through.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, the greatest country in the world, and yet our food system and dietary habits and all these other things are just like we're getting sick,
Yeah.
sicker. People are worried about a face mask while they're eating at McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys. Like
that was the one biggest thing that, like, after the pandemic, I'm like, oh, for sure, it's going to be more workout heavy. Let's work on that nutrition because it was obvious, like, what was happening.
Well, the people that were getting sick were the people that had inflammation and diabetes or some sort of issue. I mean, if you look at pictures of the 50s, of men and women in the 50s in America, there wasn't obesity. It didn't exist. It didn't exist. And then whatever's happened within that, with the big companies saying that sugar was good for energy and all that sort of stuff. It's a wormhole you can go down. But we're a sick nation. Like it's really sad. And you notice in most of the airports, you're like, man,
we don't move much, right?
Don't.
Technology limits
being
us.
sedentary is like
it's like a combination of a couple things that just
on your phone and like even with my kids, like iPads and stuff, like they have 45 minutes a week total that they can choose to do it all at once. They can break it up, but that's it. And it's awesome. Outside, and we stick to it. Even when they go to the grandparents, we're like, he's got 10 minutes, he's got 20, like, unless it's a educational type thing that's helping with their reading. But even then, I'm like, let's just go outside.
Yeah.
Because there's just so it just you have to develop your brain, even as an adult, but just being outside and like working with your hands and and actually talking to people as opposed to just texting.
Like, look what it did for you, like just going out to that island, which is just an insane story. It's like, when you think about it, it's insane. You go out this island, right? And you're forced, and that's like, I didn't live on an island, but when I was younger, we lived in the middle of the country. Like, we were surrounded by cornfields.
Yeah.
I could go out and I could go play in the barn.
Yeah.
I could ride a golf cart or a go-kart.
Yeah.
Or I could play video games, but I was never like a video game person.
Yeah, me neither.
So it was like I was just making things up to do randomly and bored as crap most of the time. But it's like, it's great to be bored.
Yeah, it's good. It's be okay be okay being still. Like,
and I don't think I am okay anymore. Yeah. Like at this point in my life, like we went on our I think it was our 4th anniversary. Like we went out, like we just got a hotel downtown.
Yeah.
And went out, and the next night we stayed in a hotel again.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting in the hotel, and I was just like, I got nothing to do. I got nothing to worry about. I feel like I always need something to worry about, and it's
it drives my wife. If we go on a vacation somewhere, I'm like, we're going skydiving, we're going this, we got the ATVs, we got horseback. My wife is like, can I just lay by the pool and go to the spa? I'm like, there's all these, like, look at these rope swings we gotta go. And she goes, she's like, are you 5 years old? I'm like, it's gotta go on the rope swings. It's like I just gotta,
like, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like, I've got all the. I'll come up.
That's what I love about being a dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, she'll go into the and my wife works around the clock, and her job is demanding, and she's an amazing mom. So when she gets there, she wants to like just. And I love a good spa, but when I go through a hotel lobby and I see all the pamphlets with all the cool shit to do, I'm like, I'll like take them all, come up with the thing, and I'm like, okay. I'll put them out like this, and then like that's kind of the same thing. I'm like, nope, it's different. This is this, and this. We're going fishing. We're going this, and I'm like, go down to the concierge. I'm like, who's my guy? Who's my guy? You're my guy. Okay, I want to do all of this. He's like, you have one day. I'm like, okay, well, we got to figure it out.
We're gonna take the best of 3.
Yeah.
Top 3.
Top 3. So, but my kids love it. So, and again, we'll have our moments where we'll have like the relaxing thing. But I'm the same. Like, once I get somewhere, I'm like, okay, like I need to go explore. So, but again, I going back to being able to move and stuff again. You don't realize how much pain you're in or how shitty spot you're in until it goes away. And I actually didn't realize like how bad, like I just had kind of, you sort of adapt to this, like, okay, I can't do this. And you slow down and you mentally are in a fucking shitty place. And then I realized when I went to Medellin, as bad as my situation was, as horrible as it was, like even just what I was going through and probably what an asshole I was and grumpy I was, and definitely not seeing the sunrise and appreciating the day. there were out of the 14 people that we were all going through the same thing that week, there were 13 other people that were way off worse than I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I thought I like these guys have it rough.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like there's always somebody that is worse off and has a better attitude.
Yeah.
And it's like that's something too. I'm like, I got like it's not fucking the end of the world. You got to find the fucking silver lining. It's like when you meet those people that are paralyzed or whatever, but they're crushing it.
Yeah.
They've found a way within what the 3 feet of the world that they can see every day. They make it positive, and they do it. And you know, Mark Owen, who's one of the SEALs on the show, he wrote that book, No Easy Day. He calls it the 3 foot rule. He said all you can control in life is the 3 feet in front of you. That's it. Everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And in operation, in their gun battles, he's like, if you just focus on this, you're going to survive. But if you start worrying about all this other shit, you're fucked. Such a great thing implementing in life that I'll always go back to. It's like all this other buzz that's going on in the world and chaotic. We've talked about it sometimes. Sometimes like podcasts and shit start spinning me out or news, you know, the crazy stuff that's happening and borders and this and that and blah, blah. You're just like, you're freaked out.
Yeah.
But then,
like,
nothing you can,
control?
yeah. It's like you can,
outside of how it's freaking
yeah. And then you're missing out on certain things. And I think knowing that, and also too, which was important, I really started changing my morning routine about what I was listening to. It really does affect your brain and like your mindset. So instead of like listening to these political analysts and listening to these, you know, end of the world sort of things that I got really into, and I still enjoy, you know, being dialed in and just having an understanding of what's happening politically in the world. It wasn't setting my mind right.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm big. There's things like motivational speeches or whatever it is on iTunes. I listen to a new one every day. And when I'm going to drop my kids to school, I play that instead of some music.
Yeah.
And just hearing about, and it's just awesome, like Kobe Bryant speaking or Tom Brady, or there was this one the other day about this guy talking about being like what a Vikings mentality was. Like,
yeah.
Just like crazy, but it's like that to me, like gets you, you know, it gets me fired up. And then it's like my kids love it because there's like, oh, like let's go. I'm like, ah. If they're going to a jiu-jitsu match, I'm like, listen to this. And like, you know, but it is, it's like you are the things that you take in and digest, just like food or information, really can affect and does affect what your output is.
100%.
And it's the older I've gotten and realizing how valuable time is, how important it is, it's choosing from a dietary standpoint, but also from an intellectual standpoint, what I'm putting into my system, where I can effectively be better within the day.
Yeah.
Like, how do I, you know, I always say to my kids, I'm like, each day, if you're just a little bit better than you were when you woke up, however that is, just a little bit, then, you know, 3 to 6 months from now, you're going to be even better.
Yeah.
There's one of my, this guy that I worked with a long time ago. Actually, he was one of the guys that really helped me get into really good shape. Ray Wajali, just an awesome human being out in Los Angeles. And he had said to me one time, because I think he saw I was getting frustrated that, you know, I was working out and like my body wasn't changing. And he was like, he gave this great metaphor where it's like, if you're sailing a ship and you're holding tight to the wheel and you literally turn it 2 millimeters that way. That's all, 2 millimeters that way. He goes, in 6 months, instead of being in Australia, you'll be in Antarctica. He's like, that's all you have to do, but it's time and the change will happen.
Yeah.
But you have to commit to the process. The process is being in love with the process, I think, is the most important part. Enjoying this part.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get caught up in like, well, I just want to get to, well, the best part is like what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's like forging this path right now and understanding what this journey was. And then when you get to the, you know, little milestones that you hit, you know, it's just, you appreciate it a lot more.
It's almost like there's got to be no destination. It's all about the journey.
It's 100% the journey, because that is like, this is where we are right now.
Yeah,
and if it ends today, then then this is where it is, and just trying to be more present in that and constantly keeping myself in check.
Yeah.
And challenging myself and just putting, my wife says torturing. She says I'm always trying to torture myself of some way. She's like, "Are you like a masochist? You just love to put yourself through?" And I'm like, "It's not. Yeah, maybe a little bit. It's just I just like to be challenged, like to put something in front of me where I'm not comfortable."
Yeah. There's something about a mentality of, and this is why I love crushing legs.
Yeah,
This is why I love, like today I did a 7-minute cold plunge,
yeah,
and
game changer,
it
right?
was I've only gone 5
Oh yeah,
in this cold plunge.
yeah,
And today I was like, you know what? Like,
yeah,
let's push it.
yeah,
And it sucked, but there's something about a
yeah.
mentality of
You go
that
through
sets you
waves of like
apart.
it gets easy and then it gets fucking hard again, and your
Yeah.
body's going like, because everything in your body's going, get me the fuck out of here. And then when you, if anything, I find when the cold plunge, when I fucking just can control my breath and everything
Yeah.
disappears and just fucking focus on my breath and like literally go somewhere else. And then all of a sudden everything goes away and I'm like,
Yeah.
my heart rate's down. I'm chilling. I'm like, yes, like I did one before. I went to pick up the kids to come here, and I did one in the morning. Like if I can do them, I'll do 3 minutes, twice a day. Perfect. But there's no better feeling than that.
You know what sucks even worse?
What?
So I do cold showers in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's been cold here for Charleston.
Mhm.
So that's how I kind of like feel out how cold it's going to be that day, is how cold my shower is and how long it's going to be. Because in the summers, it's like nothing, right? Like everything's high.
Yeah. You're like, perfect. The cold plunge is like, I'm going in there.
Yeah. So like the cold plunge is like you just committing.
Yeah.
The shower is like on my face, on my back, on my face again.
Yeah. You can't. Yeah. The shower can be harder because you're not like, but the cold plunge, putting that in my backyard and that's like my morning routine every single morning. And if I don't get it in the morning, I'll make sure that it's done within the day. But I just love that getting up, getting out. That
do you get up and go straight
there?
Plunge? Yeah,
straight there.
Because you're just like, that's how I am with the shower.
I'm literally I do it every time. I go down, it's dark, and I put it by the thing, and I press the stopwatch thing, and I'm like, motherfucker, oh, I hate this. And I go in, I go underwater, I'll hold my breath for like 10 seconds and just blow out, and then I come up, and I'm like, my neighbor, I think I was telling you about this. My neighbor was like asking me, he's like, one day when I first got the cold plunge, he's like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "I hear this like,
He's choking.
Yeah, like this morning, I'm like, "Oh no, I put a cold plunge in my back." He was like, "A what?" I'm like, "A cold. It's like an ice bath." He goes, "You go in there?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not okay." I'm like,
"You're right."
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's important, and again, it's like it feels better, and as we get older, I think it's, I'm 46 now, and these next 10 years of really taking care of that and understanding, with all the science saying muscle density is like that's your key to longevity, and just being healthy and flexibility, mobility, and just doing those things, and then just eating right and being cognitive of, your inflammation markers, and just doing this. And then just like when you check all those things throughout the day, you're just like a better human being.
Yeah.
You feel better, you see better, you can accomplish, like, yeah, we all have shitty days, but if you can, I'm always like 70-30, if you're 70-30 on that, then you're doing good. Yeah.
So you guys go back to film, and you haven't really filmed in a while, right?
Year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So like, and you've been living out here, so that's been kind of new. So you've gotten like a ton of family time.
Yeah.
Way more than it's been.
Yeah. I've never, like, this is the first time ever I got to take my boys to school for the first time, usually because I'd always be working. And that's, definitely the one thing that sucks about the job is the amount of time that you spend away. Because when you're gone, and especially being a lead on a show, like you're gone, and then on other weeks you have press obligations and you're promoting the show, or you're just whatever it is, you're but thank God for FaceTime. And thank God I have a great wife and great support system. And I was very grateful to be able to be a home and be a dad. I love being a dad is like the greatest thing ever. I love picking my kids up.
Yeah.
I love, like tonight we're going to hang some Christmas lights, and we have a friend coming in. We're going to do a bonfire and s'mores and stuff. It's just like, it's like it's such a fun, and I know, this time of when they're just little is
Yeah.
it's so limited, and it does go quick because the boys were born at season 1 of SEAL Team,
Yeah.
so it's crazy to think, we're come to the end of that, and that's the thing when you're on a show, so many things happen. Like when we did CSI New York, I remember Gary's kids, they were kids, and then when by the time we finished, they'd gone off to college, and people had gotten married and divorced. Just life happens, and you're with these people for 13, 14 hours a day for 9 years, 10 months out of the year. It is legit, and there's different personalities and this and that, and so it's but nothing will ever take the place of SEAL Team. This is, if anything, has opened up so many new doors for me career-wise on the action side of things. My favorite character of all time is John McClane. I think he's the greatest. The first Die Hard, which is a fucking Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Die Hard is
Fight us.
It is a fucking Christmas movie. It's the best Christmas movie of all time. But I've always loved that character, and to play that type of character, and I'm hoping in this sort of next chapter of my career post SEAL Team that this is where I stay in this sort of action world. So which is cool. So
that's awesome, man. Well, we'll wrap this up. Wait a little longer because I didn't know the next time that we'll ever have you. So we wrap this up, and I think there's a lot of great things that will add a lot of value to people's lives just hearing this and your story of trials and freaking challenges and triumph, man, and the great person that you are. I'm just appreciate you as a person, and never even knew that you're a big star. That's what I love about you, man.
Yeah,
and
he's a regular dude.
Just appreciate your time and your wisdom, and looking forward to. I know that the best AJ Buckley is still to come.
Amen to that.
And you're even in the last 6 months, I've seen a transformation just in you personally. And when I talk to you, you're we're talking about cool things now. So I'm just super excited for you, and I appreciate you coming on. And
thank you. Yeah, anytime.
And for my 10 listeners to hear you out.
Man, let's blow this up, man. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, brother.
Start from the bottom.
All right, man. Start from the bottom. Here we are. All right.
All right, brother.
Appreciate you, brother.
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. That was fun, man.
I am.